Hi, it's Jane with Scraptastic Yarns podcast. I've had quite a few people mention the glasses in the giveaway. Those I got at Dollar Tree probably a year ago. Whenever I was one of the bingo queens with the senior circle bingo, the senior circle group at the hospital. It was an activities group that they used to have. Every month there was some kind of something we celebrated. So I would bring decorations to decorate up. I called her Rescue Annie, but they said no, it's Rescue Bill. So poor Annie got to wear skirts, some different things, a couple of months in a row. Sorry. But anyway, during that time, like I said, Dollar Tree was my go-to to get stuff to make costumes or to make something for Rescue Bill to wear for the bingo. And we would leave it there for the students who come in, the CNA students and the nursing students who come in for classes in that room. And they got quite a kick out of it. So we just left it and they would leave it and I would pick it all up the next month. So when I redecorated. But that's where those glasses came from. And I did have quite a few people asking me about my cardigan. This cardigan that I was wearing yesterday or the other day. And I want to say October through December, quite some time ago, I had hosted a crochet along. And the crochet along was a Raglan crochet along. And that's basically what this is. It's just a Raglan sweater. And the yarn was Knit Crate's Pimento. I think it was a DK. I did these in double crochets because that is my favorite stitch. And I just wanted to play with that stitch a little bit more. And then when I got the cardigan to where I wanted it, I just did a simple shell stitch around. It's a 5 double crochet, and then I skipped 2 stitches and did a single, all the way around the entire thing. Down at the bottom, I kind of fudged it a little bit because I didn't have quite enough stitches. So there are a couple places where it was, 5 double crochets in 1 stitch, skip 1 stitch, and then a single, skip a stitch, and then another shell. But that's, that's down there at the bottom. A lot of people aren't going to get close enough to see, so I wasn't too worried about that. But when I did this Raglan, I had started a series called Create. I kind of put it on the back shelf because analytics showed that it wasn't really going anywhere at the moment. So I thought, well, I'll bring that up a little bit later again and start back up with that. I also had one called Tunisian Tuesdays, and where I showed you some Tunisian stitches or whatever, and we just went on and made something out of it, made a shawl out of that. But that Create, I'm gonna hook that video on the end to tell you how I started my Raglan and how I worked it out. It's more of a recipe. It's not really a real pattern, but it's how I work out whenever I decide to make a Raglan. And many times I do that a lot. When I do make something, I'll figure out the stitch pattern I want, how many stitches I need to start. Do I want it to be cardigan or do I want it to be a pullover? But, so I'm going to attach that video at the end. It is an old video. It's probably not really all that good a quality, but it does tell you how I got the cardigan started, the Raglan. So here it is. Hope everybody enjoys, and I look forward to seeing some of you make some raglans. They're very easy, top down. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do, knit or crochet. So here's that, and I'll see you again tomorrow with a regular podcast. And everybody, have a great day. Remember, choose kindness. Hi, it's Jane with Scraptastic Yarns podcast. Today I'm just going to give you a little bit of information. This is part of the Create series, and it's how I started my Raglan crochet sweater. I'm going to include a picture of what I have so far, but I tried to explain it on Facebook to someone who wanted the pattern, and it's not really a pattern. The reason I like doing this one is because you don't really have to already know a gauge. Gauge is nice for certain things, but with this, you can kind of work as you go and determine what you need to do as you go. So basically what I do is I measure around my neck. And let's say that's my neck. I measure where I want that to fall on my neck. Do I want it to be high neck or do I want it to just be a low? For this one I chose a low neck. I measured and I chained a chain as long as I needed to get that plus an extra 5. Why plus 5? I don't know. I just chose to do that. The next thing I did is I counted my stitches. Why? Because I want everything, all of my stitches, to be divisible by 6. And I will explain why I wanted it divisible by 6 by showing you. Basically, I am creating a square or a rectangle neck. And where I get the 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now if this is the back, I'm not probably going to divide it, but the front I may want to do a cardigan and I would divide that. So for this one I actually chained 120 and divided by 6. That came out to 20 stitches. So then what I did is I put 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, and 20 on my square. So that let me know that I was going to count to 20. Put a stitch marker here and here, here, and here. So I'm going to do that on those 4 corners. So then when I started crocheting, if I wanted something that was completely like a pullover, then I wouldn't divide these two. I would join it into a circle. But because I am making a cardigan instead of a pullover, I don't need to join it into a circle. But I'm going to crochet 20 stitches. In the next stitch, or the 20th stitch, I'm going to increase by putting 3 stitches into that 20th stitch. And I'm going to do that at each place that there is a marker. What that does is that creates the beginning lines of a raglan sweater. And each row that you do, so that I've done 3 stitches here, I'd remove the marker and put it into the middle stitch. So it would go into the second stitch, and as you can see, it would just grow out this way. And it'll get bigger and bigger. And then you're going to continue to work that until you are able to bring this point and this point together under your arms. Now generally, once I've reached that point, I do one of 2 things. I like a positive ease, so I usually will do 2 more rows of increases. However, you don't have to do 2 more rows of increases. You can, when you start going around and you get to this point, you can join it to this one and this one to this. And then the next 2 rounds, you've got your markers now basically in the same stitch. When you come to that marker, you can increase in the stitch before and the stitch after and do that for 2 rows. That usually gives you enough positive ease so that you can manage it. You may need to do more. That is certainly a personal preference. And from there, you're no longer going to be crocheting or knitting onto your sleeves. You will now be doing the front panel and the back panel, and again the other front panel, or the back and the front panel if you've joined it in the round. When you get to that point, you may need to increase some stitches for your bust line. And generally what I'll do there is the first row that is a complete joined round that I've not increased under the arms. The first complete round, I will count 10 stitches, increase, count another 10, increase, all the way around. And the thing about a raglan is you can try it on as you go, determine if you need to add more stitches or remove stitches, whatever you need to do. That is one of the reasons I like a raglan. I don't have to worry about, like I said, the gauge so much, especially with crochet. Knitting, you might have to worry about a little bit of gauge with it, but basically for most raglans you do not. You just need a base number to start with. The only other thing that, like if you go to knittingfull.com, when you use the generator for the raglan sweater, normally they want you to put in a chest measurement, sometimes a waist measurement, but the chest usually is the biggest thing for most women. And generally why they do that is so that they will tell you how many times you need to increase. And it's usually based on a percentage that I believe it's Elizabeth Zimmerman came up with, which is a 10% increase for chest, and then a decrease down for your waist if you want to get more shaping. I don't really normally worry about shaping because I'm a big girl. Boxy things are fine for me. So those of you that need more shaping, I would certainly use that to give you an idea of your rounds and what you want to do for your um, matter of increasing. And it generally gives you out a full pattern. You can use it for crochet if you already know your gauge. But like I said, I don't worry about gauge. I just use this simple formula. And I've never had any issues with it, knitting or crocheting. So that is where I came up with my raglan. And like I said, it is basically just a um, recipe. It's really more of a recipe than it is an actual pattern. So I hope that helps some of you um, for creating a raglan. I don't know if it will or not, but it works for me. Give it a shot. I mean, the worst that you're going to have to do is rip it out. We all know how to frog. So that's it for today's Create. It's a nice, sweet little short one. So everybody have a great weekend, a great Thanksgiving holiday, and I will see you again in December for another Create. And we'll look at creating maybe a poncho or something. All right. Remember, choose to be kind.